you didn't struggle for what you have, you're going to lose it. I don't care if that offends you. Machiavelli said it 500 years ago, and it's still true today. Look around. The heir who inherited the business, bankrupt in 10 years. The kid who got into college because of their parents, drops out. The relationship you didn't have to work for falls apart. The promotion you were handed, you can't handle it. Because here's what nobody teaches you. Struggle isn't just about building character. It's about building competence. Every easy win makes you weaker. Every handed advantage robs you of the skills to defend it. And the cruelest thing anyone can do to you is give you something you didn't earn, because you'll lose it, and you won't even understand why. Let's get into it. So Machiavelli wrote this in The Prince, and at first it sounds almost insulting. He said, "Those who become princes by good fortune have little trouble in rising, but much in keeping atop. They have not any difficulties on the way up because they fly, but then reality comes. Basically, if you didn't climb the mountain, you don't know what's on the mountain." And he was writing about literal princes, sons who inherited kingdoms from powerful fathers, and he watched them lose those kingdoms within years because their fathers knew every rival family, every assassination plot, every economic threat, every military weakness. They learned that through decades of war and politics. But the son just knew he was a prince. He knew the title, he knew the luxury, he knew people bowed when he walked in. What he didn't know was why. He didn't know which advisors were loyal and which were waiting for weakness. He didn't know which alliances were real and which were strategic theater. He didn't know how his father kept the military loyal, how he balanced the nobles, how he managed the church. So the first real crisis hit, and he made a choice that his father would never have made. And the kingdom fell, not because he was stupid, but because he didn't have the scar tissue. And that's the thing about inherited power. It looks like power, but it's actually just a costume. You're wearing your father's armor, but you never got hit, so you don't know where it's weak. And here's the uncomfortable part. This applies to everything in your life right now. Let me give you the most American example possible. Cornelius Vanderbilt, 1877. The richest man in America, built a railroad empire with his bare hands. Started as a kid working on ferries in New York Harbor. Fought, clawed, crushed competitors. Built something worth the equivalent of $200 billion today. His son William took the business over. And you know what? William did okay. Not great, but okay. Because he at least watched his father work. He saw some of the moves. He inherited some of the instinct. But William's kids, they just inherited money. And they spent it. Mansions, parties, European vacations, marble, everything. By 1973, when the Vanderbilt family held a reunion, 120 descendants of Cornelius Vanderbilt had gathered. You know how many were millionaires? 0. Not one. The entire fortune. Gone. 3 generations from the richest man in America to a family reunion where nobody could afford the venue. And this isn't unique. This is the pattern. 70% of wealthy families lose their fortune by the second generation. 90% lose it by the third. They call it shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. The grandfather builds it in his shirt sleeves while working. The son manages it in a suit. The grandson loses it, and he's back in shirt sleeves. And this is why Machiavelli's observation wasn't just about princes. It's about human nature. If you didn't earn it, you don't have the operating system to maintain it. Let's talk about something more relatable. Lottery winners. The American dream, right? You buy a ticket You hit the numbers, you're set for life. Except 70% of lottery winners are broke within 5 years. 5 years. You ever ask yourself why? They have millions. More money than most people will make in a lifetime. And they lose it faster than they got it. Here's why. They didn't build the skills that create wealth. They just received wealth. They don't know how to evaluate an investment. They don't know who to trust with money. They don't know the difference between an asset and a liability. They don't know how to say no to family and friends who suddenly need help. They never had to learn because they never climbed. So they're standing on top of a mountain they didn't climb, and they have no idea how they got there, which means they have no idea how to stay there. And the fall is brutal. There's this guy, Jack Whittaker, won $315 million in the Powerball in 2002. Biggest jackpot winner at the time. 5 years later, he's broke. His granddaughter's dead from a drug overdose. His daughter's dead. His wife left him. He's been robbed multiple times, sued by casinos. He said in an interview, "I wish I'd torn that ticket up." Because the money didn't come with the instruction manual. And the instruction manual is written in scar tissue. You learn it by failing small 100 times before you succeed big. You learn it by losing a little until you know how to protect a lot. Jack never failed small, so he failed catastrophically. And before you think this is just about money, it's not. This is about everything. Let's get personal. For a second, think about the relationship you had to pursue versus the relationship that pursued you. The person you had to win over. You learned their language. You learned what made them feel safe. You learned when to push and when to back off. You learned how to apologize, how to fight without destroying things, how to read their mood before they even say anything. You built the skills to maintain that relationship because you had to earn that relationship. But the person who chased you, the one who made it easy, the one where you never had to try, you didn't learn anything. And when that relationship hit turbulence, because all relationships do, you had no idea how to navigate it because you never had to before. So you lost something you thought was solid, and you couldn't even figure out what you did wrong because you never learned the skills in the first place. This is what Machiavelli meant. It's not about morality. It's not about fairness. It's about competence. Struggle is the curriculum. Pain is the tuition. And if someone else paid your tuition, you didn't get the education. Now, let's talk about Hollywood, because America's been obsessed with this lately. Nepo babies. Nepotism babies. The kids of famous parents who get roles, record deals, opportunities that other people spend decades trying to get. And the internet's been tearing them apart. They didn't earn it. They just had a famous last name. But here's the thing people miss. Being a Nepo baby is actually a curse disguised as a blessing. Yeah, you get in the door. But you don't get the 10 years of rejection that teaches you resilience. You don't get the 50 auditions that teach you how to handle failure. You don't get the hunger that makes you better than everyone else in the room. You just get the role. And then what? You're on set with people who spent a decade preparing for this, and you're coasting. Because you've never had to be great. You've only had to be connected. There are exceptions, obviously. Some Nepo babies are legitimately talented, but most, they have short careers. Because when the industry moves on from their parents, nobody cares about them anymore. They were never the draw. The name was the draw. And they never developed the skills to be the draw themselves. Machiavelli would look at Hollywood and say, yeah, this tracks. Inherited power doesn't last. You know who has staying power? The person who was told no 1,000 times and kept going anyway, because they learned how to survive on nothing, which means they can survive anything. Here's another place you see this. Family businesses. Dad builds a plumbing company from the ground up, works 80-hour weeks, knows every customer, knows every supplier, knows exactly how much profit margin he needs to survive a bad quarter. Then he hands it to his son. And his son thinks he understands the business because he grew up around it. He watched Dad work. He helped out sometimes. He knows the basics. But he doesn't know the 10,000 micro decisions his father made that kept the business alive. The time Dad took a loss on a job to keep a relationship. The supplier he stayed loyal to even when a cheaper option appeared. The employee he kept during a slow season because he knew they'd be essential later. The son just sees. We do plumbing. We charge this much. We make money. So he makes improvements. He cuts costs. He switches suppliers. He fires expensive employees. And within 3 years, the business that his father spent 30 years building is struggling. Customers leave. The reputation tanks. Profit margins collapse. Because he didn't earn the wisdom. He inherited the asset, but not the knowledge. And this is everywhere in America. Second-generation businesses fail at an incredibly high rate. Not because the kids are dumb, but because they never had to solve the problems that taught their parents how to run the business. They inherited the kingdom, but not the king's instincts. So why does this happen? What is it about struggle that creates lasting power? It's because struggle teaches you pattern recognition. Every time you fail, your brain logs it. Okay, that didn't work. Every time someone betrays you, you learn the signs. Every time you lose money, you learn what mistakes look like before they happen. You're building an immune system. And just like your body's immune system needs exposure to germs to get strong, your success immune system needs exposure to failure. The person who inherited success never got sick, so their immune system is weak. The first real virus, the first major failure, betrayal, or crisis, and they're done. But the person who struggled, they've been sick 100 times. They've recovered 100 times. They know what failure feels like and they know they'll survive it. That's the difference. Machiavelli wasn't saying struggle is noble or morally superior. He was saying it's functional. It builds the operating system you need to defend what you have. And if you don't have that operating system, it doesn't matter how much you inherited. You're going to lose it to someone who does. Now here's the part that's going to make people uncomfortable. If your parents made your life easier, if they paid for college, if they gave you a car, if they helped with your first apartment, if they opened doors for you, they loved you. But they might have also accidentally made you weaker. Not in every way, but in the specific ways the struggle builds strength. You didn't learn how to manage with nothing. You didn't learn how to network without connections. You didn't learn how to fail and recover on your own. And this isn't about guilt. This isn't about blaming your parents. But it is about recognizing that advantages come with a hidden cost. And the cost is, you have to intentionally create the struggles you were spared. You have to seek out hard things. You have to put yourself in positions where you might fail. Because if you don't, the first time life hits you with something real, you won't be ready. And Machiavelli's warning will apply to you. You'll have no trouble rising, but you'll have every trouble staying at the top. So here's what Machiavelli really understood. Power isn't about what you have. It's about what you know how to keep. And you only know how to keep what you fought to get. The trust fund kid loses the money. The Nepo baby loses the career. The heir loses the business. The person who inherited the relationship loses the relationship. Not because they're bad people, but because they never built the skills. And those skills only come one way, through pain. So if you've had it easy, this is your warning. You're standing on top of a mountain you didn't climb, and gravity doesn't care how you got there. Start climbing. Start struggling. Start putting yourself in situations where you might fail. Because the only way to keep what you have is to earn the ability to defend it. And if you don't, Machiavelli's 500-year-old observation will apply to you, like it's applied to everyone else who thought they were the exception. Earned power lasts. Inherited power crumbles. So which one do you have? Thanks for watching. If this hit you where it hurts, good. That means you were paying attention. I'll see you in the next one.